everyone, this is Scott from Forgot to Girl. Welcome to our latest ReWatch, ReVisit review. Our video series where I rewatch a movie I haven't seen in a while, talk about my thoughts after revisiting it, then give you guys mine as well as the audience and critics reviews for the movie. So today I'm going to be talking about Star Trek Nemesis, the 10th Star Trek movie, and I've decided to revisit this because I've been revisiting all the Star Trek movies that have Picard in it as a way of revisiting and refreshing my memory on some Picard facts, but while I'm watching the new Star Trek Picard show. So I'll be sure to link in the description below and in the cards those other videos if you want to check those out. But yes, today I'm talking about Star Trek Nemesis, the last of the Picard Star Trek movies, and this one I thought I remembered a lot more about. So that was the great part about this revisit, was being like, oh, this is almost like watching a whole new Star Trek, because I thought this went a whole lot of different ways. Wait, Tom Hardy's a clone? I thought he was his son. So that was a little, not that big a thing, but a bunch of different elements in this one that I just completely forgotten, which made it, I know I definitely had seen this because a lot of the imagery I remember, but I didn't remember exactly things like the plot, the fact that he was a clone and not his son. For some reason I thought he was his son, but clone makes sense too. And then things like B4 and Data's death in this one. So I'm sorry if that was a spoiler, but I'm talking about this older movie. But anyways, so this one was interesting as a revisit because it was a lot of just like, oh, okay, I remember that imagery and connecting that to this thing. But it was also a little interesting because, like I said, it's almost like watching a new Star Trek movie because it was not fresh in my memory at the details. I probably haven't seen this since it came out, potentially even since maybe slightly after that, maybe sometime when I was in high school, which is like 10 years ago. Well, not quite, but close to it. But yeah, so that was really kind of interesting kind of rewatch to realize of all the things I had kind of missed, and staring at skinny Tom Hardy, who I was like, wait, it was so funny. I didn't realize till like a couple of years ago that it was Tom Hardy in this. Never made that connection because I'm not used to skinny Tom Hardy. I'm used to, post Bane Tom Hardy, a little bit of a thicker Tom Hardy. So that was kind of interesting to see him in this kind of storyline with, he's Picard's clone, and it's all about this mirroring, and it's about, well, if you had the same genetics, would you turn out differently based on, it's the nature versus nurture kind of argument or idea kind of brought to in a kind of sci-fi reality in this one. So I did like that I kind of got this kind of refresher, or got to kind of actually pay attention and learn what the story was this time. So I did like the kind of the premise of this being like, oh, he's your mirror. Are you solely the circumstances of the life, or are you genetics? Is there more to a person than, exactly that nature versus nurture thing? So I really liked that element of this. I liked being able to discover these little things with Data and V4, and this one being like, oh, okay, this is some of the things that maybe connect to it. But one thing that confused me that like seems to be like they said something in this movie that made me think like, wait, are there no more androids besides Data? Because that's also one of those things that the new Picard series, this is a little off topic, but the new Picard series has confused me about is like, are there more than, like, I've always been under the impression that Data was a special android in the Star Trek universe, and that there weren't any other ones besides B4 and like the random ones like that. But apparently there's like, but then we got Star Trek Picard where there's a whole synthetics and they all got banned. So it's this weird thing where I'm like, and then this one they tracked down B4 because it's such a unique signature that only Data gives off, and I'm like, okay, wait, do you guys just mean that because he's a special type of android, that's why he gives off the positronic energy or the signal or whatever, and that's why we were able to get him in B4? So that's the little thing about this one that was kind of interesting to be like, wait, okay, yeah. So it was a little confusing to be like, wait, are they, just brought up some questions and maybe be like, I need to do some more research and more paying attention with Star Trek stuff. But so that was kind of interesting to see. One thing that I was kind of thought was interesting about this whole actually premise though of this one, and once we get into Tom Hardy, kind of revealing some of his motivations in this one, which is, he's dying because he's a clone and he had some messed up genetics, and what he needs to do is get Picard and drain all his blood for a transfusion, and then he'll be okay. And I was like, okay, I can see how that would make sense if this took place like now, but this is a thing that takes place in the future. Star Trek's in the future. They're flying around in space. They they can't create blood in the future. They've got replicators. They make tea. They made 2 cups of tea in us in this movie in particular, but they can't make blood. They can't create that part. I found a little interesting. I was like, wait, you guys haven't cracked making blood? All right, like it would have made more sense if it was like they had maybe justified a little bit more than that they just needed just his blood. If they needed some kind of I don't know. To me, it just seemed a little bit of like, wait, you guys didn't think of the fact that you guys could just make blood? You guys have machines that make this, that just bring things, that replicate things. So that part I thought was a little bit like, wait, okay, interesting that that's the premise. And then the fact that Tom Hardy's other motivation, or well, I guess his other plan is that he just wants to destroy all of Earth and rule the galaxy because his people were oppressed. Which I get, wanting to get your people out of oppression. I don't know why that necessarily means you have to rule the galaxy. I didn't quite see the 1 to 2, I guess, on that one. But that's just me. But yeah, so it was kind of a really interesting kind of rewatch and revisit for those reasons. But yeah, so I checked out the reviews for this one. My personal review for it is kind of middling, I would say. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. This one was, like I said, there's a reason I forgot so much of the details of this one is because it's nothing special to me, at least. It does have a lot of cool little elements. I like that we got to see Admiral Janeway in this one, and we get the a little bit of kind of this the data stuff and the B4 and just Picard in general. There's a fun little thing where we see at the end we see a little bottle of Chateau Picard wine that they're all toasting to Data at the end. So that some fun little things, but it's not something I want to necessarily go revisit immediately or anytime soon. So when I checked out the audience and critics reviews, this time I was a little less okay, I wasn't so I was a little bit more on board, or not maybe on board, but a little bit more okay, I get why you guys love this one as much. So yeah, the Rotten Tomatoes critic score is a 38%, and I had 160 based off 160 ratings for critic ratings, so 38%. So that's obviously not good. It's technically a rotten one, and like I said, I can't really argue with them that much. It does have some fun elements, but like I said, just the fact that a lot of the story is kind of based around just the fact that Picard's clone wants to just get Picard's blood. I could see why that's just okay. I could see why critics would have a little bit of a problem with that being the whole story. Almost. There was more obviously to it, but I could see how they could break it down to that. And then the audiences on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 49%, which again, right down the middle. And so you can obviously see that this is just one of those movies that some people like and some people don't. And I'm just right in that middle where I'm it's fine. Like I said, I didn't love it, didn't hate it, didn't dislike it, I liked it fine enough. It was a Star Trek one. It was nice to see all the characters and all the fun things about it, but it wasn't anything, like I said, not something I'm going to be revisiting anytime in particularly soon. Nothing special, in at least my mind. Maybe you love it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, pretty much it was a nice, overall I should say, it was a fine rewatch, and it was mainly a nice refresher for seeing some of the connections to Picard. Maybe have a couple predictions for Picard and Data and B4, because we see B4 at one point in Picard, so yeah, that'll be another video. I'll probably talk about that in my next Picard video, which I'll also link at the end of these videos. But that's all my thoughts on Star Trek Nemesis. Be sure to let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. Are you like me and you just kind of found this a middling one, or are you one of the people who really liked it, or maybe you really disliked it? I'm always curious to hear that. Be sure to let me know in the comments below. But thanks again for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and have a good one.